Okay, good morning. So I know that you can't see my face at the moment, but we are going to be reviewing lunar and solar eclipses. So the first eclipse we're going to look at is a solar eclipse, which is why I have the camera facing at this diagram. So if you remember, in order for an eclipse to happen, you need to have one object that's blocking light from another object and casts a shadow on that object. So in a solar eclipse, you have the sun, moon, and earth perfectly lined up. Another way that we can say this is that the moon passes directly between the sun and the earth. Now, the reason we don't always have a solar eclipse when these objects are in this position is because the moon's orbit is tilted. So usually the moon rides a little bit above or a little bit below where Earth is. So only when you have that perfect alignment or that moon lining up directly between the sun and the earth will you have an eclipse. As the moon passes directly between the sun and the earth, the moon is going to block some of the sunlight and cast a shadow on the earth. Since the moon is a small object, you'll notice that the shadow that the moon makes is also fairly small. Makes sense? So the shadow has two parts. You have that dark part there known as the umbra, and then the larger part that's not quite as dark called as the penumbra. If you are on Earth and you are in the umbra or that dark part of the moon's shadow, you're going to experience a total solar eclipse. And this eclipse is pretty cool because when a total solar eclipse happens, in the middle of the day, the sky will turn dark. You'll be able to now see the stars in the sky because you don't have the bright light from the sun. So the stars will appear, the sky turns dark, and the temperature is going to drop. Then all of a sudden, you'll see this image in the sky. And what you're seeing there is you're seeing the disk of the moon on the earth, and you're seeing the outer layer of the sun's atmosphere, which is going to appear as a bright white halo in the sky known as the solar corona. So solar eclipses are pretty cool, but not everyone's going to be lucky enough to see one in their lifetime. Because the shadow is so small, only a very small portion of the earth is actually able to see a total solar eclipse. And these eclipses can only happen during a new moon phase. And you can see why here. The sun is shining on this part of the moon. And that's the part of the moon that's not facing us. So only during a new moon phase is a solar eclipse visible. But again, not during every new moon because the moon's orbit is tilted. So it usually rides a little bit above or below Earth. These eclipses don't last very long. The total eclipses, you're talking about a matter of minutes because the earth revolves and moves out of the moon's shadow. So that's solar eclipse. Let's take a look at lunar. For lunar eclipses, the position is different. You still have to have that perfect alignment, but now you have the sun, earth, and moon perfectly lined up. The earth is now the object directly between the sun and the moon. The earth is now the object casting the shadow, and because the earth is bigger, the earth makes a much bigger shadow. So if you notice, the moon's in that shadow. So anywhere the moon is visible on earth can experience the eclipse. So you're much more likely in your lifetime, and probably already have, to experience a total lunar eclipse than you are to see a total solar eclipse. A lunar eclipse actually also lasts a lot longer than a solar eclipse. You're talking about a matter of hours because it's going to take a lot longer for the moon to move out of the shadow of that earth. The really cool thing that happens during a total lunar eclipse is the moon starts as the full moon, and here's why. Because the sun is shining on the part of the moon that's facing us. So it starts off as the full moon, and then it goes through all of its phases in the course of the night. At the height of the eclipse, the moon looks like this, that bright red-orange color. And the reason for that is is the sun's light has to bend over the earth to get to the moon. And when that sun's light gets bent, it creates those cool colors that you see here. So, lunar eclipse only happens during a full moon, but not every full moon, because remember, that moon's orbit's tilted, so it's only when that earth is directly between the sun and the moon do we see those eclipses. Again, two parts of the shadow. You have the dark, smaller shadow called the umbra. That's where the total eclipses can be seen. And you have the large, less dark part of the shadow called the penumbra, where the partial eclipses can be seen. So 2 eclipses, solar, sun, moon, earth, perfect lineup. Moon blocks the light and makes the shadow on the earth. Lunar, sun, earth, moon, perfect lineup. Earth blocks the sunlight and makes a shadow on the moon. Following this video, you're going to go to Google Classroom and you're going to follow the directions where you're going to show me what you've learned and what you remember about the 2 types of eclipses.